Are you ready to revolutionize your relationship with money? Welcome to the Finding Financial Freedom podcast with the Frugal Physician, where I, Dr. Disha Spath, will be your companion on this exciting adventure. Get ready to conquer debt, build wealth, and embrace a mindful spending lifestyle that will empower you to live life on your own terms. This show is sponsored by Set for Life Insurance, the ultimate client experience in the insurance industry. Are you looking for the perfect insurance coverage that suits your needs? Founded in 1993 by President Jamie K. Fleischner, Set for Life Insurance specializes in individual life, disability, and long-term care insurance. As brokers, they represent numerous companies in the industry, ensuring that their clients get the best products at the most cost-effective rate. What sets Set for Life Insurance apart? You'll enjoy special discounts, priority underwriting handling, and even exceptions in the underwriting process. So why wait? Contact Set for Life Insurance today and let them be your insurance partner for life. Visit their website at www.setforlifeinsurance.com or call them toll-free at 1-888-553-3559. Welcome to another episode of Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. I'm your host, Dr. Disha Spath, and today we're delving into a topic that affects countless individuals across various professions, overcoming money-related stress and anxiety. Our guest today is not only a medical professional, but also an expert in helping women physicians regain control of their finances and create wealth without compromising their well-being. Dr. Latifat Akintade, a respected gastroenterologist and the visionary behind MoneyFitMD School, joins us to share her insights and experiences. She understands the unique challenges faced by physicians, the weight of financial burdens, and the desire for autonomy after years of training. Dr. Akintade is also the author of the empowering book, Done with Broke, which I have right here, a testament to her journey from the financial stress to empowerment. Based in California, Dr. Akintade's mission to prevent burnout and cultivate a love-driven medical practice led her to discover the path of financial freedom. Her program, MoneyFitMD School, has been a guiding light for women physicians nationwide. Join us as we unravel the strategies, stories, and wisdom that can liberate us from money-related stress and pave the way towards a fulfilling and abundant life. Stay tuned as we dive deep into Dr. Latifat Akintade's transformative journey and tap into the wisdom she's gained along the way. Let's embark on this empowering conversation about finding financial peace and liberation right here on Finding Financial Freedom with the Frugal Physician. Hey Latifat, how are you today?
Hello, I am doing fantastic. So good to be here with you.
I am so glad you're here. Where in the world are you right now?
We are currently in Morocco.
You are my world traveling friend and so inspiring. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm glad we could get my internet working and figure out a time that works for both of us, especially with the time difference with Europe or North Africa now and where
Yes,
you are. So,
you are a rock star. Dr. Akintade, tell us a little bit about your journey and your money journey, where you are now in life and where you started from.
oh my goodness, it's crazy every time I share this journey. It still feels unbelievable to me. And I think it feels unbelievable to me because there's so much misconception around money. And I was one of those people that had the misconception. So, like you mentioned earlier, I'm a GI doctor. I'm a mama of 3 little ladies. They're traveling with us right now. We're on a family sabbatical for a year. We're traveling the world.
My
So, it's
gosh.
really been a privilege, honestly, to experience this world, I can say now, with them. But, if I go back to 7 years ago, the whole idea of this was something that I never even imagined would ever be possible. It was not even like on a lifetime goal or plan or any dream list whatsoever, because my life was very, very different. I did GI as a, residency and then fellowship as a GI doctor. Like a lot of physicians, I knew zero about money, like nothing at all about money. I was pretty much living paycheck to paycheck as a physician. I knew that I was going to work for a very long time because I truly do love what I do. My goal was to be a GI doctor. But I'm so grateful that early in my attendantship, I had a moment where I had almost like an aha moment where I realized that if I did not change anything about my life, if I did not change how I related with money. If money was something that I thought was always going to be dependent on one source, one clinical source, I was going to burn out. Right.
Mhm.
And the reason why was because I had amazing physicians, amazing attendants that were, loved medicine and all that. But I started noticing such slump on their shoulders. Right. And doing things that, they would almost act like we have no choice. And I'm
Mhm.
like sitting down here thinking about my life, thinking about the fact that I moved from Nigeria 20 something years ago. I didn't see my mom for 5 freaking years out of those 20 something years. Like, there's so much sacrifice that was made to get to where I am as a physician. And to
Mhm.
let that end up with burnout was just regret that I was not willing to face. And so for me, that was like my wake up call. That was my aha moment where I'm like, Latifat, you don't want to live in regret. You don't want to regret going into medicine. You also don't want to live a life where you're apologizing to your kids for choices that you think you could not make on your time. Where you're like, well, I don't have a choice. I have to be on call. I don't have a choice. They're calling me. I don't have a choice. Like, that was just not practical with the vision of life, living life with freedom to serve, to give that I had for my life. So that was the moment where I was like, okay, Latifa, you need to just like learn about your money. Like, okay, where is this paycheck going? Who do you owe? What student loan do you have? Who is Auntie Sally Mae again? What did you tell them to do with the other one? Defer, forbear, whatever the F got it out of my face. Like, talk about like just going down to the basics. So that's where I started 7 years ago. And honestly, at no point did I think I was going to be teaching women about money because I was just there to solve my own problems, which was learn money, make it make sense for you so that you can actually do something with it. Right. And so I started learning what's a budget. I hate budgeting. What is a 401k? Again, I hate memory. Like, every time I tried to memorize what a freaking 401k was, it was like there was a block in between my smart brain and 401k that wasn't letting it in. And then I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm not going to memorize any of this nonsense. I'm just going to start taking actions and referring back to them, because why do I need to memorize them? And the crazy thing that happened was when I decreased my need or necessity for like memorizing, like I was studying for like freaking MCAT or USMLE, I started remembering those things, right? So I just spent my time just taking action more so than trying to wait to get to a knowledge base that some random person was going to tell me, now you're qualified to do your money. So that's how my journey really to money started. And now it's been 7 years. And honestly, I'm amazed by how much growth that we've had in that time. I did not know that it was going to be this quick. Most people think it's going to take forever. It actually does not. It just takes taking action for a very short amount of time, really intentionally and committing to it. And honestly, you will create a momentum that will just continue to help you grow your net worth and for your life for the future.
Oh my gosh, I love so much of what you just said. We're such perfectionists as physicians, and we have such a hard time getting over that hump of now I feel like I know everything and now I can start investing or start buying assets, right? That getting over that perfectionism is step one. How did you make yourself do it? Like what?
Honestly, I just was desperate. I was afraid. I
Right.
was desperate to not have regrets. I was desperate to not burn out. I was desperate to not have to apologize to my kids. So I just needed a compelling enough reason. And I found that reason. And that reason has always been there. I just didn't focus on it. But knowing that reason, really, like, my fear of all those was bigger than my fear of money. And so I went towards the area of less resistance, which is now I better go learn money because I don't want all this bad stuff to happen.
So you didn't want to apologize to your kids. That's a wonderful motivator that you wanted to make sure you set a good example for them. So what did you start doing once you decided that you were going to start looking at your money, you started investing in your 401k? I'm sure that's not the only thing that led to you being able to take a whole year off of medicine. What else did you do?
No, that's not everything, but I want to make sure I emphasize that was actually a lot of it.
Mhm.
Because I think as physicians, we underestimate the power of compounding. And,
Absolutely.
of course, I've done other things. I've done real estate, and I'm happy to talk about that. I have MoneyFitMD. We diversify our income source. However, I want to make sure that people know that that can actually be a huge deal, right? And what I'm talking about is like maximizing your 401k, taking advantage of any work related contributions, doing a backdoor IRA. Like I did all that stuff, and that actually gathered momentum, even
Mhm.
as a W-2 physician, for like my first 3 years of learning money, right? Decreasing consumer debt, especially like high interest credit, was important. And for me, at that point, I did not know a lot about like the mindset per se. I did not know a lot about all these other things that I'm teaching women now. However, what my goal was then was let's pay off the student debt. So my goal was, I mean, I had like 6 figures in student debt and I refinanced with SoFi at low interest. And I said, okay, I'm going to do a variable rate
Mhm.
for 5 years so I can like run to the finish line. And we did it in like 2.5 years without me working extra shifts, without me like taking additional calls. And my husband works in IT, but it wasn't like it was making a physician income by any shape or form. Right. So it was really about going down to the basics, to the principles of what do I actually want to do with my money, right? Cutting our code according to our size. We did that. And I talk a lot to my women physicians, even right now. I'm like, listen, it is easy for you to enjoy $1 million expense. It is badass for you to have the same level of enjoyment from like a small fraction of that, right?
Mhm.
And so I did that. I enjoyed the holidays that we took, even though they were local. So it wasn't about like starving ourselves or not taking a vacation or anything. It was learning to develop enjoyment in what we actually had, right? And that really helped me not feel like I was depleting or suffering or avoiding spending on things that really give me joy. But that part actually helped us create like a critical mass to an extent. But it was after I paid off my student debt that we now started asking our questions of like, okay, now we know that we're going to be fine if we continue this trajectory. The money is going to be invested and grow. However, this is not going to lead us to wealth. How can
Mhm.
we create wealth? How can we not be dependent on my clinical income? And that is when we started looking at real estate. And, we do invest in real estate. We do long term, we do short term, we have a medium term rental. And yeah, so that is, and of course, MoneyFitMD started around that time as well, because I was just like, okay, women were not being taught about money. COVID happened. Everybody and the mama was freaking out about money, and I had zero worry about money. And so I just felt compelled that I really felt like I had no choice. To be honest with you, entrepreneurship is not something that I wanted or dreamt of. I literally do this because I'm like, this is what I'm meant to do. And so that's what led me to MoneyFitMD and the things that it's now created in terms of the podcast and the money school and everything else that we do inside of MoneyFitMD.
I love that. I love that you diversified your income. Your story and mine are very similar in that we went after the student debt because it was such a big bill to pay every month. And I felt like it was really tying me down and not letting me live the life that I wanted to live. And now here you are. You've created this a whole year of space. Speaking of schooling, what are you doing with your kids?
Oh,
Are they
education's overrated. I'm just joking.
Are you road schooling?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, thankfully with the pandemic, people have gotten really, really creative. So we actually had them sign up for an online private school. They provide all the materials. And so my husband and I are kind of like the teacher's assistant. And I
Okay.
love it. It's very flexible. It's a few hours a day. They're learning and they get to learn, of course, by exploring the world with us.
Yes, that's an unbeatable education. It's just to see the world, see how other people live, and see how privileged we really are, and just develop that sense of gratitude. No matter how much you're spending, whether you're spending, $100 a night or $500 a night, it's incredibly important what they're learning. I'm so, so excited for you guys. Let's
Yeah.
go over to the topic of what we were to talk about today, which was stress and anxiety related to money and how we can handle it. So, how do you define what money related stress and anxiety really are? And how do they differ from general stress and anxiety?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in this context, we can agree that we're not talking about a clinical diagnosis of like anxiety or depression. If you have that, please talk to your psychiatrist, your therapist. We're talking about specific anxiety that
Hmm.
may be related to circumstances that are around you. And, I think when I started money, I thought I was the only person that was worried about money. I did not know that more people were worried about money. And now that I'm in this, I hear so many stories. People talk to me all the time. And in general, when it comes to like the fear or the anxiety about money, it could be related to the present state of what you believe your finances look like, or it could be a fear about what future could look like if nothing changes, if you continue on the path that you're in. And the reason why I'm saying belief is because sometimes what I found is that the anxiety can be related to the fact maybe you actually do not have money. However, sometimes it's actually a thought or a belief that we have. So I've had members in my program and people that I've coached that have like multiple six figures and multiple seven figures in financial net worth and are still worried about money. In those cases, that's where coaching comes in, where we start to help them isolate like the thoughts that they're having that's actually creating the concern that they have. So again, I want to make sure I'm clear. There are two parts. There's the actual circumstance or the fact, right? And now there's also the thought. The fact is you may actually have dollars, meaning that if someone was to show in a court of law, they would show that you have the dollars, or whether it's like physically or in your investments or in your assets, but you could still be worried because of stories that you're telling yourself related to the number that you're seeing. But again, there are some people that actually have a fact of like, I don't know money, I don't know how to do money. And in those cases, it's getting the skill set, the education, and the practical steps that they need to work on. But if you have the actual numbers, but you're telling yourself stories about it, that's causing you to have those anxieties, then what we need to do is like make sure we tackle those stories and help you learn how to change from the unhelpful stories to the more helpful stories so that you can enjoy your life and actually even create more momentum when it comes to your money.
Can you share insights on how past experiences with money, such as childhood upbringing or influence or financial mindsets, how does that influence your behavior and mindset in general with finances?
Absolutely, like a ton. And this happens at any and every financial net worth. I will tell
Mhm.
you guys. So, for example, if you're, and I will give specific examples that I can think of, and this is not one specific person, these are the accumulation of so many stories that I have in my head. But, like, for example, if you're someone that grew up like in a family where there was actually lack,
Mhm.
right? You may have been taught that money is scarce, right? So if money is scarce, anytime we have access to it, we have to make sure we keep it. We have to make sure we take care of it. We have to make sure we don't lose it, because if we lose it, we're not going to have anything else to have, right? We're not going to have anything else to be able to live our life with. And you can see how if you bring that into your life and your story, regardless of what you now have, right, treating it like that, you're not going to be able to spend in the way that you want to spend. You may not even be able to invest in the way that you want to invest, meaning that you may be someone that hoards a lot of cash and you're not investing because you're afraid of what would happen if you were to lose that money. Or it could also be the exact opposite end, where now all you want to do is just buy asset, 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 and not travel and overworking and grinding to pieces. And no matter how much dollars you have, there's just that story in your head that we're going to run out, we're going to run out, we're going to run out. Right.
Right.
And I want to be sure tell you guys that there's nothing wrong with you. Like, that story helped you survive when you were young, right? But what happens is that stories that may have been helpful for us at one stage may just not be helpful for us going forward. And now the key is going to be, how do we now learn from that? How do we now change our story so that we can create the life that we want to live forward?
I love that. Yeah, the stories we tell ourselves, whether they serve us or not, is a very important question. And it's not one that you generally ask of yourself, right? That you kind of just assume that this is my past, this is where I've come from. Whether you let it change or shape your future is up to you. You decide if it is the goals you're going to function off of or not. I love that. So, can you discuss how the role of societal pressures come in to exacerbate this financial stress and the choices that we're making?
Absolutely. 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 So I talk about this whole thing about relationships, relationship with money,
Mhm.
relationship with yourself, relationship with others. Those things have been so manipulated by society that it actually causes us more harm the way that we've been taught. So, for example, a lot of times we're told to define ourselves based on how much money we have or not have, how much debt we have or not have, right? I remember specifically when I was finishing fellowship that no one asked me what kind of assets I was going to buy. Their question was, how are you, like, what purse are you going to buy? What bag are you going to buy? Right. And so what
Mhm.
happens is, if we let society define what money should look like, what a physician should look like, what your money should be doing or not doing, it is actually going to cause us to not even listen to our own internal guidance, but instead we're focusing on external guidance that has nothing to do with the kind of life that me as an individual am meant to live. So that's one. Number two is this, like, if you think about it, I always talk about like our thoughts about ourselves matter, right? But when you look at how society has defined, like, how we think about ourselves as women physicians, like if you're not grinding to death, people don't think you've worked hard enough. If you're not
Mhm.
saying yes all the time, people think you're selfish. If you're a physician and you're like actually asking to not be underpaid for what you do, people are like, don't you care about humans and pulses? As if like money and good cannot coexist together, right? So a lot of this is honestly having to do with just silencing the external and tuning into that internal guidance that I believe that we all have, so that one is we can advocate for ourselves, we can decrease our people pleasing, and we can
Mhm.
also learn that we are valuable regardless of how much money we have or not have, how much debt we have or not have. So those are some of the things that I truly believe that is important if you want to have money. And I will tell you that this is work that I'm continuing to do, not just for my members, but also for myself. Like I have to continually, even as my net worth is growing, I have to make sure that I'm staying like grounded in myself, making sure that I'm not defining myself based on what I have or not have, based on what people think of me or not. Because at the end of the day, that's not what's going to lead to wealth building in the expansive way that I think about it, right? But just making sure that we stay anchored to who we are so that that can be our guide to the wealth that we as individuals are meant to create in our lives and with our lives, to be honest with you.
So many times I find myself going back to the 10-year-old me because I feel like I was most unfiltered then. If I'm starting to feel pressure and I'm looking around, like I feel like I should be doing this or should be doing that, I go back to, okay, what would 10-year-old me say to this? And would I approve of that or not? Would I want to do it or not? Right? A lot of us kind of get trained from the outside world that there are things we should want, or this is a way we should behave, or we should give ourselves away, or doctors need to burn themselves out. The society thinks we have to work 24/7, our entire lives until we die in the clinic. That's a choice we can make. That's a choice we can do if that makes us happy, but certainly does not define what we have to do with our lives. And you're showing us that you can be a good doctor, you can give back to society and still make the choices that you want to make and have the life you want to have.
Absolutely. And I also think part of it too is, I talk about this on my podcast as well, because I think about this a lot. It's normalizing seasons.
Mhm.
You know, we need to learn to normalize seasons. I am a great physician, and nothing is going to change that, regardless of whether I choose to see patients or not. But I think a lot of times we think that life is meant to be one thing, like we decided when we were 18 or 21 or 23 or whatever, that we're going to be physicians. And the thought that we wanted to focus on this with our entire being served us to this point and this where we are right now. But it's really important for us to make sure that we're not thinking that that's the peak of our existence. Like, it's okay for you to choose to do something else with your life. It's okay for you to decide that the next 10 years, the next 15 years, what is going to be spent like serving humanity in a different way. And I want us to normalize that, because when we do, we really are going to start to live in the true freedom that we're meant to live. Because everything that I've learned so far, whether that was like biochem, how to study for long, how to whatever, it all comes together to serve the mission and the vision that I have for my life this season, regardless of whether that's within the clinical room or not, right? And I do think that as physicians, when we learn to normalize seasons, and that goes with finances as well, like the season for growth, the season for harvest, the season for planting seeds aggressively, right? One of my assistants, one of the people that worked on me with MoneyFitMD, lives in Nigeria. And, I always tell people that I believe in paying people well, but I always tell the people that I work for me that at the end of the day, I want what they're getting paid to seem like a bonus compared
Mhm.
to everything else that they're learning and growing with me. And so, like, even with my staff member that lives internationally, I will be on it. I can literally send you a screenshot of the conversation we're having this morning. My question for him is, what assets are you buying? That was my conversation. Like, what asset are you buying? He's like, oh, yeah, he bought a piece of property a couple of months ago. I'm like, good. Like, what's your plan going forward? It's like, well, my plan is to be able to buy one land a year. I'm like, no, you can buy two land a year, because there's no reason why. It's not going to be easy, but force appreciate. I'm like, you can go listen to this podcast about forced appreciation. right? Because
Mhm.
listen, you have young kids right now, their needs are not going to go down, it's going to increase. So this is a time for you to plant seeds aggressively. So yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Your spouse may not understand it, but they will thank you in 7 years when you have like 14 land that the value of the asset is going up, and it's like, yeah, thanks for kicking me in the butt. Like, so the key is there's a time for everything. But what happens is when we don't plant seeds, when we should be planting seeds, when we should be harvesting, we're like, we have nothing to show for it. And this is not to guilt or shame anybody. This is to say that wherever you are right now, it is not too late, right? It doesn't take a lot of time for you to build asset. It does not. It takes commitment. It takes willing to do what it takes. And it takes literally like showing up and going, I'm ready. When you're ready, right? When the student is ready, the teacher shows up. That's a word, that's a phrase that's being used. But the key is, guys, let's just stop delaying our lives like in the fullness that we could live it by not taking the action to invest in seasons. But also make sure that you're not letting society tell you that you have to hold on to the dreams that you had when you were 18, when you couldn't even see the end of the road, right? And I do
Right.
think that when we understand that, we will have more physicians practicing medicine because they want to, which is my entire goal, not because they have to. And our patients can tell, they can tell the difference, right? I tell my people all the time, it's the difference between practicing medicine with one butt cheek versus like two butt cheeks, right?
Love
Right?
that.
When you're practicing with two butt cheeks, you hear because you want to, and your patients know it. You know, when you were introducing me earlier, you were talking about like being a remarkable physician. I honestly, I'm not like the only good doctor. Maybe I'm not even like the best that exists, but I'm good enough that my patients love me, good enough that I got voted for like top doc multiple times by my colleagues and my patients. Why? Because I freaking practice medicine with two butt cheeks. Because I'm like, listen, this shit sucks. This shit sucks, right? I'm not going to do that if I'm afraid of losing my paycheck. I'm not going to do that if I'm afraid of what one freaking boss is going to think. Like, listen, if you want me to leave, I will leave, knowing that I did the best that I could for my patients. And I honestly think that when we as physicians are able to practice medicine in that way, our lives will change, medicine will change, and patients' care will get better because we're no longer doing it because we don't have a choice. We're doing
Right.
it with the full extent of
Yeah.
ourselves.
And we don't see ourselves as just a cog in the wheel, putting in the RVUs, logging the RVUs, next patient, next patient, next patient. We are there because we want to be. I love that. Now, can you tell us, you mentioned assets. Would you mind defining assets versus liabilities to us and some other practical steps that individuals can take to get out of that stress and anxiety and that rut that a lot of us find ourselves in?
Absolutely. And I will say that, so if you guys are familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is one of the classic when it comes to financial education, you could have thoughts about him, but his information can be very helpful. And I'm a big fan of learning from anywhere you can learn from. It defines assets as anything that adds money to your pocket, right? And so that's the definition of an asset versus a liability takes money out of your pocket. I define it a little bit differently. And the reason why I define it differently is I define it for physicians in a culture of burnout that we exist in. So my definition of asset is a little different from how Rich Dad and Poor Dad or Rich Dad Poor Dad define it. So I define your asset as anything that either increases your net worth or wellness in the short, medium, and long term, and a liability as something that decreases that. And the reason why I say that is we mentioned at the beginning of our conversation about, mental health and all that stuff. By that definition, an asset would not be paying for a psychiatrist or a therapist out of pocket or paying for coaching. I define assets as things that increase your wealthability of your life, and those are included in there. My brain is one of the most important assets that I invest in. And even as a money coach, I don't play around with that. I invest 5 figures every year, not because I want to pour money down the drain, but because I get a return on my investment. So that is an asset for me. My education is an asset. The other things that are assets is like properties that increases in value over time. That's an asset for me. Having a business, MoneyFitMD is an asset because the value is going to increase. And if I wanted to sell it, which I have no plans of doing, it would be something that would make me money now and in future. So those are things. So again, anything that increases your money coming in or wealthability of your life, investing in your relationships, in my opinion, is an asset. So that's my definition of asset versus liability. Liabilities would do the exact opposite of that.
Right, right. I love that you count wellness as an asset. Wellness for physicians is so key. It's been all over the place in the media, and thankfully we're getting CME for it now. The longevity of our careers is so important. That's our biggest asset, right? Our longevity. And if we can stay and practice in the way that we want to practice, not only is it beneficial to us and our families, it's beneficial to all of society. And that's really all physicians. That's where we're coming from. We want to serve. I know very few people that will say they went into medicine to make money. Even if it is, if that was your motivation, fine. But I am sure there's a little bit of wanting to serve others in there as well. Can you share a success story of someone that you know that turned their money related stress story around and just thrived afterwards? Have you seen that recently in your coaching
Oh
program?
yeah, oh yeah. I have a ton of examples. I will tell you one that comes to mind. Actually, I have a couple, but I'll share this one with you. This is a physician who is amazing. Like a lot of my women, I mean, you are amazing, I'm amazing. Like these are people that care about humans. And her entire goal, just like mine, was to serve her patients. And for her as a Native American, being able, considering the fact that we have such few Native American physicians, being able to serve her community was literally her dream. And she found a practice where she was able to do that. Unfortunately, leadership changed. She thought she was
Mhm.
going to be there forever. Leadership changed. That was number one. And then she had some health related needs that came up that she needed to take care of urgently. And instead of allowing her to actually take the time off to go take care of this healthcare need, she was fired.
Oh,
She was fired. Unfortunately, she cannot sue. It's a federal facility, and they had the audacity to lie to her patients that were scheduled with her that day, saying she had a family emergency. She did not have a family emergency. She was fired, not because of her quality as a physician. This is someone that I would let her take care of me, and I value my own health, right? And so for her, what I'm grateful for, she's someone that had been in my community before that. She had been in for about a couple of months. And so she had done a lot of like the housekeeping, where her money was going. She was invested in the stock market, and we had talked about what her next level was going to be. And for her next level was going to be investing in properties. And so the moment she told me about that, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I know you've been shopping for properties. It's time to get on that before they have proof that you don't have an income. So do you know that within like a year, she bought an asset. She bought a duplex that she converted into a triplex. She added a mobile clinical center there on that same expanse of land where she started seeing patients. She started her own mini practice. This is all within a year. Her
wow.
own mini practice. She launched her tea line that she's been thinking about launching forever, which is like teaching the importance of tea as a way of health in collaboration with traditional healthcare as we know it. And now she's actually teaching primary care doctors how to learn the power of herbs and how we can use that to supplement what we do in clinical practice. All that was within a year. And she is primary care. And oh, one more thing she did was she got a part time practice, negotiated higher pay in her words than she had ever imagined she would earn as a primary care doctor,
Wow.
right? All within a year. And she's married to a stay home dad. So this is not like, oh, she lost her job. Now there's all this other stuff. No, she was like the source of income, right? And that points to the importance of being ready before life happens, even if you think your income is guaranteed. But it also speaks to the importance of like coaching, because for her, and she would tell you this, I've interviewed her, and she would tell you that if it wasn't for the power of community, the power of coaching, and the power of like learning how to like be able to pivot that she's learned by practicing, she was not going to be where she is today. So I cannot wait for where she's going to go to, because her T line, I already told her, I'm like, this is going to be a 7 figure, like multiple 7 figure business. Your education for physicians and healthcare professionals is going to be like its own source of income. Her real estate is a source of income. Her micro practice is, her part time practice is, right? And now she's like not afraid of what things are going to look like. She's serving her community in a different way. She's still teaching her native members about herbs, and she's doing talks at like healthcare fairs and all this other stuff. So she's one example that comes to mind. Another example that comes to mind, I mean, I have so many examples to be honest with you. Another example that I have actually that comes to mind is someone who came to our program after they had already started their money journey. So at this point, they had like seven figures in net worth. And their thing was, it still does not feel how I thought money was going to feel like,
Hmm.
right? I still don't have and I call it like the seven figure life. I don't have that seven figure life. I still feel stuck to my clinical income. I'm still worried about what's going to happen, especially as a single mama and all this stuff. And they just joined actually recently. And what we're working on right now is like helping them say no and how to really figure out what their clinical practice is going to look like for them, how
Mhm.
to look at their numbers where, and this is something that I actually recommend that people do, especially if you have a healthy net worth. If I don't do anything, if I don't change anything, if I don't invest one more penny, what's my numbers going to look like in 10 years?
Hmm.
And sit with that. Sit with that. And the reason why I tell people to sit with that is just let that help you breathe. To help you know that, okay, if nothing changes at all, if I don't even invest a penny, this is what my numbers are going to look like, right? And now, once you do that, now ask yourself, what kind of life do you actually want? Because what that does is you're not making decisions from I am behind. You're not making decisions from I need, which is like can be a place of scarcity, but now you're making decisions from a place of I want. And that is where magic actually happens. So these are two simple examples that come to mind right now, but I have I it's a privilege, honestly, to do what I do. But with that privilege comes the fact that we do a lot of work. We get coaching, we see transformation, we partner with people, and it's amazing to see what women physicians can create, not because of me only, but really because of who we are and our identity. I mean, we're a special breed of humans, to be honest. It is true.
Yes,
It's
it's
true.
true. We are special humans, and you make it possible for us to create our ideal lives and build that freedom into our lives. Going back to the primary care physician that you mentioned earlier, what were some key mindset shifts for her that had made her pivot from being fired from a job that she loved to creating all of this space in her life for everything that she wants?
I will be honest with you, this is not like tooting my own horn, but really it's because of the work that we do. We get coached every week. Like the women in my program get coached. So whatever is coming up for them, we normalize their fear. We embrace their fear. We hold them up like a village of women. Like we normalize the fact that this really is shitty. And then what? What are you going to do? Right. And then what? And we keep them accountable. So it's not letting them, because we all have our human brain that wants to keep us safe. And left to our minds, our brain can go awire. But when people are showing up on calls every Thursday and we're getting them coaching, like what's coming up, we have a private Facebook. So, like, what's coming up? Like, what was that thing that you said you were going to do? What's the status? Part of it is we're not grinding. I don't believe in grinding to death. Part of my work is also making sure that they rest. And in fact, so today we're recording this on a Monday, yes, and our last call was on a Thursday. I literally put two women in jail, like on in rest jail in our program. Well, I'm like, you're not allowed to do anything. Like, I want you to be uncomfortable. You've gone through so much in a year. You went through a divorce. You're now the boss of your money. You're took a trip you've never taken before with your kids. Now you're not allowed to don't do anything like rest. So I want to make sure you guys understand that rest is a part of wealth building. So sometimes we actually physically tell people you're in rest jail, you're not allowed to move anywhere, right? But really the coaching, the partnership, the equipping, the creating a space where we hold you, we embrace you, and then I kick your butt a little bit. It's all of that combination together. And of course, I'm not working with women that are not successful in their own right. I'm talking to women physicians who our baseline is badass, right? So we have something to work with already. And then with the tools and the support we provide for them, honestly, the chance of success is pretty much inevitable as long as they're committed to doing the work.
Amazing. Well, I know you have an amazing coaching program. You also put out this book, Done with Broke, with Dr. Latifat Akintade. I just read through it. It's amazing. And it gives you a primer too of things, the mindset shifts, the things that we all struggle with, acknowledging them and moving on past them to make our ideal life. So what's one final piece of advice that you would like to leave our listeners with that's not in this book? I do highly recommend you go out and get this book. what's one last thing you'd want to leave them with regarding their journey to overcoming money related stress and anxiety?
Absolutely. Number one is I don't care what anyone has said about you. If you're a physician, MD, DO, MBBS, you are capable of not just having money, but creating wealth in the expansive, abundant frame of mind. You have, like, your brain is built for that, right? And so that's one thing that I'd like for to normalize. But also, there's going to be different seasons when it comes to your money journey, right? And being aware of what season and stage you're in is going to help you normalize and have clear expectations about what is normal, quote unquote, versus not normal in the season that you're in. Because one of the things that I see people do is you may be in this season and you're looking at someone else that's in another season. Like right now, like I have people in my program that some of them are like starting, some are in the middle, and some are like taking sabbaticals like I am right now, because that's what we're coaching. Like, you want to break, let's normalize that. And I always have to remind people that we're all in different phases, in different season. Next year, 2024, when I'm back from my sabbatical, I'm not going to be looking at people taking sabbaticals and comparing, because there's time and space for everything under the sun as long as you do what you need to do. So just want to tell people that, because I think it's so easy to look online or hear people like you and I talking and think like it's possible for them, but not me. It's possible for you, but understanding that there's seasons that you may be in where you need to plant the seed so that you can create what you want to create. But don't think it's not possible for you. Do what you need to do. Seek out communities. I know that it's not easy finding communities, but there are, and my community is not the only one that exists. So I don't want you to think I'm asking you to join mine. No, it's not for everybody, but find a community of people that are creating what you want to create. Find them, learn from them, because ultimately, like, the temperature of the room you're in is going to be a big determinant of what you do or not do. So if you're in a place that resets your temperature to where you're coming from, but not what you're trying to go to, nothing is going to change, and you're going to be stuck. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to think it's not working, when what you need to do is change your environment and find that community. And when you find it, it may take investing with money. Yes, I know it may. But the question I always ask people is, if you don't invest in yourself, who will? Right? So just make sure you're taking care of yourself and finding a community that is a place where you can thrive.
I love that. How can our audience stay connected with you and access additional resources about managing money related stress?
Absolutely. If you're listening on the podcast right now, you can go check out the MoneyFitMD podcast. We have conversations very calmly and relaxed. Sometimes I scream at you, sometimes but my goal is I just want y'all to got money. That's my goal. I want you to have money and live well, period. That's something. The other thing that I would like to share as a resource is I actually have a upcoming training. So if you listen to this after, that's fine. I will make sure that the recording is available. But I'm doing a masterclass on the Millionaire Doctor. And the reason why is I want to teach women physicians really, and want to be very clear about how you can create your 7-figure life without like burning or grinding to death. So if you want that, whether you want to attend live or you want to catch the replay, go to moneyfitmd.com/TMD. So the Millionaire Doctor. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I really do want that to be the norm for physicians, because when we have that norm, we just know that that money becomes inevitable, and then our lives just becomes like crazy, because we really are going to be able to fix problems in this world within and outside of medicine that we may be called to. And that's my goal this season of my life, to be honest.
I love that. I love everything that you're doing, Dr. Latifat. I'm so glad you're here to share your wisdom. And thank you for taking the time from your beautiful sabbatical, and enjoy Morocco. I know Marrakesh is going to have lots of treasures for you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for starting your podcast. Thanks for doing this. Honestly, guys, we have so many physicians, so many women physicians, and we really need to normalize this conversation. So every time I see someone doing what you're doing, I'm like, yes, we want people that want to learn from you. So, by the way, if you listen to this podcast and you haven't left her a review yet, what the hell are you doing with your life? Leave her a freaking review. That's how people, like, if you listen to a podcast that you love, this is how you tell the person that's investing their time, thank you. So if you haven't left her a review yet, please make sure that you do, because it's how other people are also going to find her. So thank you for doing what you do.
It's my pleasure. Thank you again. I love this gratitude, love this conversation, and I hope to have you back whenever you have time for us.
Thank you.
A big thank you for our sponsor today, Set for Life Insurance. No matter what your insurance needs are, Set for Life Insurance has you covered. They're a nationally recognized leader in disability, life, and long-term care insurance, serving clients across all 50 states. Their dedicated team specializes in assisting medical residents, physicians, dentists, business owners, and other high-income professionals.
The content shared on this podcast should not be taken as individualized financial advice. We are here to share our knowledge and experiences, but it is crucial to consult with professionals such as accountants, financial advisors, or attorneys who can provide personalized guidance based on your specific needs.